Gone global. Leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Well, thank you, Donald. Good evening, everybody. I have to tell you, I said last night that I thought the Sky News prediction of 226 votes, the margin by which she'd lose, last night on the withdrawal agreement was at the high end of expectations. I expected a slightly lower figure because I thought some MPs might just abstain. Well, folks, I was wrong because it was 230. I'm going to say wrong, a little bit wrong. It's a mind-blowing number. A total, an utter humiliation for the Prime Minister. And it says to me that there's no deal that's going to go through. And I expect, as planned, launched his motion of no confidence in Her Majesty's government. Now, this is not as straightforward as it used to be years ago. Years ago, if you lost a no-confidence motion, that was it. The government fell, there was a general election. The rules are different because Cameron and Clegg brought in new legislation, and it says now that if you lose a motion of no confidence, there'll be a period of 14 days during which the government can seek to regain the confidence of MPs, or another government would have to be formed, and if that failed, there'd be a general election. The remarkable thing about this change in the law that Cameron and Clegg brought in is it actually potentially puts the Queen in the most extraordinary position. Nonetheless, the vote matters, and yet, I don't know, I really don't think that the DUP are going to drop the Conservative Party for the Labour Party, given that Corbyn has always been a supporter of Irish nationalism. So what should happen here? Well, my view is this debate should not even be happening tonight. If Mrs May had any sense of honour or integrity, having completely mishandled the government's flagship policy over the last 2 years and suffered that horrendous loss last night, she should simply resign. But of course, Mrs May never resigns, so we have this debate. I want to know from you, do you have confidence in the Prime Minister and her government? And if you think, no, it's time for a general election, we need Jeremy Corbyn to lead the country, call 0345 6060 973, or maybe you think, whatever flaws she's got, she's well-intentioned, let's stick with the devil we know, text to 84850, or maybe you're one of those who has simply given up with the whole shooting match, and you've got no company, in which case tweet, using the hashtag Farage and LBC, at LBC, and of course, watch us on Facebook and comment there too. My first caller is a new caller, Nogger from Lincoln. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
I am well. So you're a first-time caller. Are you a big May supporter, or is it time she went?
Not at all, mate. What she's got to do now is do what she said she was doing in the first place 2 years ago. Tell her we was leaving, and that is it. We should be leaving. We're just messing about and messing about and messing about. To call a general election now would be a complete waste of time, because you've got Corbyn, who he don't know what he's on with. You've got the majority of them remainders. I live up the north, and I work in construction. Every single person in my industry who I know want out. We want out of this. We want to give it a chance. If we have dead wood working at our firm, we get rid of them. We take people on that know the job.
Wow. Well, I have to say, she is dead wood, isn't she, in parliamentary terms?
She is dead wood. But the problem is now, if she leaves now, we're absolutely, we'll end up not leaving the EU. And this with the Remainers in that, that's what I can't understand. We want to be in, we want to be in. If we went back to them now with a begging bowl, we would be absolutely shafted for years and years and years to come. And I just can't see how people can't see that.
No, I mean, do you take the view that I take, that it might be better if she just resigned and the Conservative Party found somebody else?
Well, yeah, put Duncan. Is it Duncan Davis? David Davis. Put
David
him in,
Davis.
or Rees Mogg. Put a leaver in.
The trouble is, the trouble is though. Oh no! Listen, I know that, I get that, I agree with you. The problem is that I don't see the Conservative Party in their current frame of mind simply appointing somebody, simply getting, the magic circle, getting together and a name emerges. They would have to have a contest. And I guess the problem there is that means Article 50 would need to be delayed.
Yeah, because them people, they've all got the fingers in pies. They've got properties abroad. They're getting paid off the EU on this, that, and the other. So they're not going to want to cut their money that's coming from us in the first place. And they're getting feathered. As soon as they finish a job in the House of the Parliament, they go work abroad in the EU.
Some do. No, some do. That's true. Nogga, finally, very quickly, would you like her to lose this motion of no confidence tonight and for a general election to happen with the prospect of Jeremy Corbyn as Prime Minister?
No, I would, if you go back to UKIP, change that party around a bit, because I tell you now, if it comes to that and it was a general election and there was another party that was going to take us out of this, I guarantee you're going to get a lot of votes, because we can't trust Labour now, we cannot trust the Conservatives. A brand new party that will get us out of this mess, and two fingers to the EU. We'll survive on the 29th, not a problem. And all this rubbish about you're not going to get food. We produce food here. Well, the only thing we might not get is bananas and oranges from Spain.
I'm not sure. I know Lincolnshire produces lots, but overall we are net importers of it. Nogga, listen, thank you for the call, and that conversation highlights many of the dilemmas. Marion Holloway says, I have no confidence in either party, but think she should carry on and get us out. Well, Mary, on the basis of last night, I'm not sure she's going to be doing that. Vince feels strongly from Exeter. He says, no. Now is not the time for a Corbyn government. May either needs to step up leaving or step down and let someone else do what we voted for. Vince, she should have stepped down a long time ago, in my view. We're up to Glasgow to speak to Jonathan. Good evening, Jonathan.
Hello, Nigel. How you doing?
I'm doing well. So, does she deserve to lose this vote of confidence tonight?
I don't think it really matters, to be honest with you. But the comment I'd like to make is there's obviously a memos went round the day from the corporate media and all the main people to see this softening of the red lines. So I think this is revealing exactly their intentions. What's going to happen here is she's going to renege on freedom of movement and reach a compromise with Labour. That's their intention for the very start.
And could she, Jonathan, compromise on the single market and on the customs union too?
She's compromising all that stuff. Your four freedoms, basically, your four so-called freedoms, is what they need to keep. I mean, they don't care about the economics of the situation. What they care about is continuing to keep the borders open and the mass movement of people. That's their raison d'etre of the European Union.
But Jonathan, she says she's going to talk to the other parties, and I quote, in a constructive spirit. Doesn't that sound wonderful?
No, but this is it's a softening of the red lines. You're going to hear that repeated day in, day out through the corporate media, through all the people. And with that, this is Nigel. You know exactly what's going on here. And they're going to capitulate. And they're going to say, well, freedom of movement is a necessity. And that's all they've ever cared about.
Well, I wonder, Jonathan, I mean, I've been saying for some time that I think suspension of Article 50 is the most likely outcome in this mess, and I'll talk a bit more about that as the hour goes by. But I begin to wonder now, is she going to try and push for a Norway-type deal, sort of Norway without the fish?
I think what's going to happen, just in the week leading up to the deal, she's going to come back and say, look, I've reached this compromise. It means keeping these four freedoms. And then everybody, all your Labour, all your Vince Cables, all your corporate media is going to go, oh, that's
SNP, yeah. Jonathan, I tell you what, if she does that and gets a majority for it, she will destroy the Conservative Party. Thank you. James in Sheffield is a new caller. Good evening, James.
Good evening, Nigel. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I want to know from you, though, do you have confidence in our Prime Minister and government?
Well, just short of swearing, Nigel, no, I do not have any kind of confidence in any Conservative at all.
OK, so you want Mr Corbyn, yeah?
Well, he's a better alternative, but to be honest, Nigel, I'd sooner have you as PM, to be honest.
Well, that's very sweet of you.
Why the hell you got out of UKIP, I don't know, mate. You know, we need you now more than ever.
Well, James, 25 years of agony, I suppose, is perhaps one reason why. I have to tell you, I thought after the referendum, and particularly after Article 50 got approved by 500 MPs, I kind of thought we'd done it. I knew some wouldn't like it, but I'd no idea they'd fight back in this way. But James, here's the problem for people like me. We have a tribal party system in this country dominated by the Labour and Conservative parties. And a party like UKIP or any other party, it can get millions of votes and not many seats. So breaking this system is not easy, is it?
Well, exactly, no, and, we do need electoral reform. We need, a system just like the referendum, a PR system, not first past the post, because it doesn't respect the will of the people in the country. And more than anything, we need that kind of reform. But just one thing more on, the Conservatives and that, if you don't mind. Whatever happened to this illegal election that they conducted in 2010? 14 police forces around the country was investigating them on electoral fraud.
Oh, look, James, let me tell you this. There was a conclusion of a case last week in Thanet South where one person has been convicted of very serious charges, and the Tory party now effectively having a whip round for her. The MP himself was found to be not guilty. James, my belief is that from 2010 onwards, the electoral law was broken wholesale in many, many places. But hey, there we are. James, finally, quickly, who would you prefer as PM through this Brexit process, May or Corbyn?
Well, I'd sooner have you, like I say, but...
I've got you, haven't I? I've got you. You can't answer, can you?
Out of two of them, very Corbyn, hands down.
Okay. All right. James, going to love you and leave you. You listen to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC at 6:15. In the wake of her humiliating defeat last night by 230 votes on her withdrawal agreement deal with the European Union, Jeremy Corbyn triggered, that's the word we use these days, isn't it? He triggered the debate that's going on right now and the vote that will happen at 7 o'clock, and it is about a motion of confidence in her and her government. I'm asking you, do you still have confidence in the Prime Minister and her government, or would you rather we moved on to a general election and the prospect of Mr Corbyn? Funny thing is that if you're a Leaver, you probably don't want either, and if you're a Remainer, you probably don't want either, because to a certain extent both go on sitting on the fence. Lots of thoughts on Mrs May. I mean, my thoughts on Mrs May are that I think she's the worst Prime Minister I've seen in my lifetime, and I believe the most duplicitous too. And I don't want this debate and vote to go ahead. I want her to resign as a matter of honour. She's led the country for over 2 years, and on the key flagship policy, she lost by an historic margin. Any sense of honour, she'd be gone. Hey, she's still there. Gareth says, no confidence in May whatsoever. She should leave now, and we just get on with it. The people have more backbone than the hapless MPs. Well, that's true. Laura in Shenfield says, Nigel, May will get in history as the Prime Minister that led the Conservative Party into oblivion. Well, that's not entirely impossible. Tony in Bristol says he's got no confidence in Theresa anymore, but Corbyn would be a disaster. Make your mind up, Tony, It's the only reason I reverse my vote is to stop him getting in. And this is it. This is classic of where we are with British politics right now. People are conflicted. They're all over the place. Chris says, the unfairness of this is stunning. I've absolutely no confidence in anyone in this government to deliver Brexit. Democracy is dead. Chris clearly getting pretty angry, as millions are. Laura in Westminster is a new caller. Laura, do you have confidence in Mrs May, or is it time to bring the government down and have a general election?
I think she's so bad she's embarrassing, not only herself but the entire country. I would back Corbyn, but without the Blairites who keep wanting to push him to the right and push him to change. All the Blairites voted for the Middle Eastern wars, and he didn't. So he was on the right side of history.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
And he... I think he's got more integrity, but it's the Blairites who keep stabbing him in the front and back and smearing him with their propaganda that worries me. I think they should join the Tory party or the Lib Dems. But I voted out. I did my research before voting out. I didn't listen to the right or left. I didn't listen to the stuff about it written on the side of a bus. I looked up different articles after wondering why Obama flew to Britain to instruct the British nation on how to vote, and that they would get to the back of some hypothetical queue.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Yeah, so I wondered what dog he had in the fight. So I started putting some interesting words in the search engines. And then I came across articles, declassified CIA papers. If you look up Ambrose Evans Pritchard, who wrote 20 years ago,
he was the Telegraph's man, of course, in Washington D.C. for many years. Yeah,
absolutely. And he wrote about the declassified CIA papers, who showed that the CIA and the US had actually constructed the EU because they wanted one government to bully rather than 28. Now, I wish Corbyn and I wish people like yourself would talk openly and transparently about this. Because
Laura, I'm going to stop you there because we're going into a lot of detail. However, the substance of what you're saying is entirely right. Back in 1961, the Macmillan government applied for the United Kingdom to join what was then called the EEC, and it took a further 12 years for that to actually happen because de Gaulle kept saying no. But the truth of it is that the CIA and other American agencies encouraged the UK to join the European Union, and I'll tell you the main reason why. They had 500,000 men in uniform in Europe protecting us from the Soviet Union, and they thought it's about time Europe took on more of the burden. Laura, your points about Corbyn, and by the way, I agree with you. You know, Corbyn's opposition to foreign wars, I believe he's been right on. Corbyn's opposition to the European project on the grounds of democracy, I believe he's been right on. But isn't the problem that actually the Parliamentary Labour Party is overwhelmingly a sort of North London club of Blairites?
Well, I think Blair is still pulling the strings along with Mandelson and Campbell and all the others. I don't know why they've got these cronies all around them. If I wouldn't take road directions from Blair, if he says turn right, I turn left. He's the culprit for the Iraq War. And if he says we should stay under the governance of the EU, I believe that we should leave.
Okay, but even though he's there and Keir Starmer's there and all the Blairites are there, on balance, Laura, you think Corbyn would be a better Prime Minister than May?
Absolutely. At least he cares about austerity and food banks and people dying, waiting for hospital treatment, waiting months or years or whatever.
Well, Laura,
he cares. At least
Laura,
he cares.
I'm sure she does care. Laura, thank you. Joe in Ascot is a new caller. Joe, imagine yourself tonight in the House of Commons. Would you vote to try and bring down this government?
Well, first of all, Nigel, I'm a new caller.
I know you are.
I'm a big fan of yours. I think you're the only person that actually says the truth on LBC. That's another story.
Oh, I think LBC's got some great people. But anyway, go on, Joe.
They have. But you, I'm not going to lie to you. You speak your mind. I'm a 23-year-old. I'm a landscaper. I've worked every single day of my life since the age of 15, 16, right? I voted to leave.
Yeah.
I voted to leave. And I'm a patriot. I love England. It's my home. Now, if I said that to anyone else, what, am I far right? What? I mean, what's going on?
Joe, I would categorise you, having made that statement to me, as normal.
Thank you. So why does the mainstream media... Everyone that's patriotic is far right? Is that what's going on right now?
Well, I think the use of the term far right, I mean, there are people out there that are genuinely far right. I was confronted by some on College Green yesterday. Criminal, thugs, nasty, bad, filled with hatred. But the truth is, Joe, they are a titchy minority. And once you get out beyond the M25, you find people like you who are happy to say they're patriots, and they can be on the right of politics or the left of politics. I'll never forget Tony Benn once, who was well to the left politically of me, and Tony Benn once telling me off and telling me what a patriot he was, and truly, to his dying day, he was. So, Joe, don't worry what the media say. They have less of an influence, I think, now on public opinion than they ever did. But how do you as a patriot, Joe? I mean, we've got this Brexit process, this agony of Brexit. Is it time to get rid of this Prime Minister? Is it time to get rid of this government? Is it time to risk a general election?
Well, can I ask you a question, Nigel?
You haven't answered mine yet, Joe.
If Winston Churchill was the Prime Minister now, what would he do? What do you reckon he would do?
Look. I think any Prime Minister that understood that leadership is a lonely place, you take decisions, you're decisive, and you ask people to follow you, any leader would have concluded the Brexit negotiations by now. And I might not be 100% happy, but I probably would have agreed with the withdrawal agreement yesterday.
I think what
Theresa May has no leadership skills, Joe, whatsoever, in my opinion.
100%. But what you said on ITV this morning, 100% correct. 100%. And if you look at, because obviously they don't turn their comments on for a purpose, you know why. If you look at the likes and dislikes, you can see it's the mainstream media that is betraying the common people, the working class people, the people that pay their taxes from the age of 14, 15, 16. The people that actually...
Joe, let me tell you this, right? Okay, you can talk about mainstream media, and by the way, I've had my problems with mainstream media over the years, and many of them, but the world has changed. You've got outlets like LBC that will allow all shades of opinion to come on and debate, and people can make their minds up. You've got the internet, which allows you, with Facebook and everything else, to go around the back of mainstream media. Joe, be cheered by the fact that mainstream media does not dominate our thinking and our voting in the way that it did. Joe, quickly, finally, time running out. If you were in the House of Commons tonight, would you vote to bring down this government, or would you vote to keep it there?
No, I'll bring it down, Nigel.
You bring it down.
I'm not going to lie to you.
Okay, no, Joe, I get that. Thank you. And Joe there, what a passionate 23-year-old. Haven't we had the last couple of weeks so many passionate young people coming on this show who are made to feel at times almost embarrassed and ashamed that they're patriotic? There is something, folks, wrong with that. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC at 6:30. What a debate going on in Parliament right now. It's the motion of confidence in Theresa May and her government that was put down last night by the opposition leader, Jeremy Corbyn. And that's because she lost her withdrawal agreement by 230 votes. Because logically, the next thing she wants to do is to get concessions from the European Union. Now, she would have been in Brussels today or Strasbourg, but the confidence motion meant she had to stay in London. But I was here this morning, first thing, at Sparrows, and there he was, Monsieur Barnier. Was he concerned that she'd lost this deal by such a large margin? Did he think he'd wasted 2 years of his life on this deal? Oh no, he seemed very relaxed indeed. In fact, he said that this deal represents the best compromise on offer, and that there will be no change on the Irish backstop whatsoever. You see, folks, the point is, Barnier has got us where he wants us. He's got us in a trap. What he wants is us to go for a second referendum, because they think here, if we're forced to vote again, we'll come to our senses and we'll back the new imperialist European Union. Well, I tell you what, if there is a second referendum, I think they're in for a shock. Back to this debate tonight, and it's difficult. Lots of you aren't keen on May, but you're not keen on Corbyn either. Archie is calling from Watford. He's a new caller. Archie, what, in your view, should happen tonight?
I think people need to get behind her. I think, they're kicking this down the line more and more. If this vote does come through and she does lose tonight, which I hope she doesn't, I think, you're just pushing it down the road. The whole situation's just being pushed down the road. No one's getting on with anything. It's like digging a bigger hole, and no one's putting any foundations down.
So would you, Archie, on what you've said, would you have backed her withdrawal agreement?
It's a difficult one because I voted to remain, but I think, there's things that I don't necessarily agree with in there, but there needs to be amendments within that. And I think, as a democracy, we need to, get these things right. So,
do you, Archie,
yes.
As a Remainer, Archie,
yeah,
do you think that a Prime Minister that led us to a clean Brexit could actually, in the end, begin to heal the wounds and bring the country together?
Not necessarily. It's a difficult, you're talking about...
It is difficult.
you're talking about a complex watch here. You're not talking about a Swatch watch that's got 3 moving bits in it. It's not just her necessarily as well that's doing this all. It's everyone else. Everyone else in Parliament that's bringing this whole deal together. I know she's the forefront and the leader, but there's everyone else that's pulling this watch together, and it's a complex part. With everything's complex and it needs to be precise.
So, on balance, Archie, you would rather she survive tonight, yeah?
I would, yeah. I think what are we kicking down the road for? Just to, I think a second referendum is a bad choice. I think it goes against our principles here as a democracy. And I generally think she needs to stay in and do the deal, and she needs to finish it. You're almost talking about bullying her. I feel like you're kind of bullying her a little bit in what you're saying.
Well, Archie, I'm not bullying her. I just think she should have resigned as a matter of honour. I can't think of any leader of any Western democracy that would stay in place given a loss of that scale.
Yeah, no, I get that, but you was on the Brexit team. Where are you now? You're no longer involved. At least she's got some background. She's standing up there and being counted as part of the team.
Oh, Archie, I'm still involved, mate. Archie, I'm still involved, mate. Don't worry about that. But no, Archie, thank you. Very interesting. Thank you for your call. Lots of Remainers. We have had lots of Remain voters who now want to see a sensible resolution to this, and many of them think Theresa May can perhaps deliver it. Joe in Hertfordshire says, forget a general election, Corbyn would be a disaster. Why aren't there any discussions about a referendum that doesn't include a Remain option? We voted leave. But, well, look, there are 3 options, Joe says. May's deal, Norway, or no deal. Joe, you can't have a second referendum with 3 options. Referendums, I think, need to be a binary, simple, straightforward choice. They also need to be implemented if people vote for them. 25-year-old Leave voter here, not giving him a name, from the West Midlands. I don't love May, but I respect what she's trying to do. It's easy to insult from the sidelines when you haven't put any of the effort in. Corbyn will go down as the worst leader of the opposition in history. I'm not sure that's true. I think in many ways Corbyn has actually surprised people how well he's done. Guy is calling from Harpenden, a new caller. Good evening, Guy.
Good evening. Good evening to you. What I'd like to happen tonight is I'd quite like to see this confidence motion fail, in the hope that then Labour will pursue their policy set out in their conference of pursuing other options, such as a second vote. That would be my opinion. For me, obviously, I'm 17 years old. I didn't get the chance to vote back in 2016 when the first referendum was happening. So for me, the chance to vote here would be incredible, the chance to have my views heard by Parliament. And in terms of your saying about referendums needing to be a choice between 2 options, I think there's certainly been actually a lot of talk about, for example, having a referendum where you have an option to remain, an option to continue with Brexit, and then if you were to pursue Brexit, you could have an option between, say, a hard Brexit, a no deal, or potentially
Guy, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
It could work.
It doesn't work. It's got to be a simple, straightforward choice. And by the way, you're 17, but you will get your chance to vote. You will get your chance to vote when you're 18, won't you?
But the issue is, of course, that by the point that I turn 18, of course, there's a chance that we will be, say, a month away from the Brexit deadline day. And, of course, the 2 main parties at the moment seem to be in a position where they're both pursuing Brexit. Obviously, Labour's stance is slightly more obscure, which is in part why I don't want this.
Well, they're both pretty obscure, Guy, actually. Guy, this argument, I understand the argument. And by the way, when I was your age, I was excited about getting the vote when I was 18. But this idea that somehow, these decisions that affect the youth, it's wrong, it shouldn't be happening. We've had this ever since the dawn of voting, haven't we?
Yes, that's a very valid point. I completely accept your argument there. It's more, I think, I will admit I would classify myself as a Remoaner. I'd certainly classify myself as such.
Guy, tell me as a 17-year-old, what is so attractive about this authoritarian European Union?
I think the benefits of the EU, I think that immigration is an amazing thing for our country in terms of including other people, the fact that we are a Western democracy, we're very privileged and we allow people to come in. Lots of builders who have worked on my house have been Polish. They're all lovely. I'm learning Polish at the moment as it is. And I think that actually being part of a wider community, I think we're much stronger making decisions on a global stage. I think globalization is inevitable. And I think to be part of such a large organization while globalization is occurring puts us in a much stronger position.
So being governed by an old drunk like Juncker's okay. We can't vote for him. We can't remove him. He can barely speak after lunch, and that's all right, is it?
See, in effect, you can vote for MEPs. There are regular European
No, Guy, stop it. I did not talk about MEPs. I'm talking about the people who have the sole right. Guy, what I don't get is this. I completely understand the young perspective, about reaching out, engagement, all the rest of it. I completely get that sensible immigration can be a very positive thing for the country. What I don't get, and what is so fascinating, is that about 2/3 of people your age are Remainers and 1/3 are Leavers. Yet when I go to Italy and France and elsewhere, I find it's almost reversed the other way round. What I don't get, Guy, is why does your generation, or a large lump of it, not seem to respect the idea of living in a democracy where you can vote for and sack the people that make the laws? I don't get that bit.
Sorry, could you repeat that? I didn't hear your question.
I'm saying, why is it you don't seem to want a democratic system in which you can vote for and remove the people in charge of your life?
Well, the problem is that actually, in terms of our whole constitutional system, the thing is, Parliament is still technically a sovereign body. We still have a sovereign Parliament within the EU. And
Stop it. Our laws are made in Brussels. The European Court overrules our courts. I don't understand why you... Listen, Guy, we could do this forever. Very quickly, if you were voting tonight, what would you want? May to stay or May to go?
I would maintain the government in the hope that we would then get to a position where the second vote is the only option down.
All right. Okay, Guy, thanks for the call. Great chat. And as we speak, Labour's deputy leader is up. Tom Watson, he's up. Of course, he comes on LBC on a regular basis. And he is now speaking. He's closing the debate for Labour, the confidence motion. And his theme is that Mrs May has done her best, but that she has failed. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC at 6:45. A packed House of Commons again. Tom Watson now speaking. Labour's deputy leader. He's closing the debate. It is a motion of no confidence debate in Mrs May and her government. Yet another dramatic evening in Westminster. Yet, seems to me that actually she's going to survive tonight. I do not believe that the DUP are going to support the Labour Party in this motion. But hey, who knows, given what's going on today? And he's now finished. And the government, Michael Gove is about to begin. He will close the debate on behalf of the government with Mrs May sitting down next to him. What do you want to happen? Do you think it's right she should lose this vote, move us on perhaps to an election and maybe a Corbyn government? People are very, very confused. Adam in Nottingham, are you clear as to what you would like? You're a new caller and welcome. Are you clear as to what you would like to see happen tonight?
Yes, I mean, one of the things I want is to live in a democracy. I'm actually I'm actually a person on the left, but I think about people like Tony Benn and Barbara Castle and Michael Foot and those kinds of people. And I look at this new metropolitan elite of trendies, and I think to myself, if we'd have been in the European Union when their National Health Service was actually set up, it wouldn't exist in the form that it exists now. As far as I'm concerned, Nigel, it's not just about free movement. I believe that immigration is a good thing, but I don't believe in open borders, as doesn't Bernie Sanders. For me, it's about the future of the National Health Service, our railways, our roads, our fisheries, and being sovereign. It's not racist to be sovereign.
Adam, you come from a tradition, and that left tradition, and all those names you mentioned, and all of them were Democrats and patriots. And I would add Peter Shaw to that list as well, somebody who felt both of those things passionately. But in a sense, in a sense, hasn't the Labour Party almost lost all of that?
It has. I mean, Corbyn spent the vast majority of his political career opposing the European Union. And it seems to me that all of a sudden that's changed. He doesn't have enough conviction for me, Nigel.
Well, I think the problem is, Adam, that he is actually strong of conviction when it comes to being against the European Union, but he's leading a metropolitan Blairite party, so he's caught in a bit of a trap. Adam, you're from the left, but clearly a great patriot and a Eurosceptic. Would you rather, I mean, it's a very tough call, would you rather Mrs May saw us through the rest of this process, or would you rather Corbyn had a go?
I'd rather that Corbyn had a go. I mean, the deal that May offered was absolutely diabolical. It was leave in name only. Yeah. And, you know, from the very start of this process, I've always had my doubts about whether we would actually leave the European Union, even though we did marvellously well, even though we had an American president that said that it would be the back of the queue, even though we had the BBC, the big banks, the big financial corporations. And I believe in aspiration, but, you know, the weight against the Leave campaign, and incidentally, when we had our first referendum to join the common market, the campaign to actually get it into what was originally the common market vastly outspent. Yeah. And at the end of the day, we couldn't use a royal decree to get out of the European Union. You know, we had the High Court, then we had the Supreme Court, but Linda Chalker in 1988 used some kind of a royal prerogative to sign the European Act, Nigel. In other words, these people aren't interested in democracy. They make the rules as long as they go along.
The way, Adam, our political class have behaved on the European question for 50 years and more has been an absolute disgrace. And that's why you being more on the left and me being more on the right are united in our view. We should put the British people first and live in a democracy. Adam, great call. Thank you. Now, Gillian's got the answer. May must step down and put a decent person in her place. I'd love to see Jacob Rees-Mogg. Yeah, but it won't just happen. You know, I mean, another one. Theo says, you know, she should pass the leadership over to Boris. She can't, this is not rugby. She can't just pass the ball over. The party would have to make a decision. Now, going back to the olden days when Macmillan stood down, a group of men in grey suits met in secret. It was called the Magic Circle, and they came up with Alec Douglas-Home as the successor, as Prime Minister, and there wasn't even an election within the party. That currently is impossible in the Conservative Party, given how riven they are on the Brexit issue. Folks, this debate tonight has no easy answers other than my solution: she should resign. And yes, there'd be chaos, but you know what? There's chaos anyway. That's my view. What does James in Dudley think? A new caller. Welcome, James.
Hi, Nigel. All right. Yeah, I think I would have backed the deal personally, and I'd also back May to stay. I voted Leave, grew up in the Black Country, so, you know, I've got no sort of elitism in me. But the main reason why I would have backed both is because I just wish that everybody would just get on with it, to be honest. And if after this...
All of us agree with that, yeah. All of us want to get on with it. But just James, the deal was so awful.
Yeah, no, you're right. It wasn't ideal. However, if in the end Parliament were to be sovereign, then there's nothing to say that actually that could be changed at the end of the transition period, as long as obviously the backstop wasn't forced on people. And so, as a result, I think it would have made sense to put it through and then change it at a later date if it is appalling. But I think in the end, I mean, I wouldn't mind the deal or a no deal, because at the end of the day, we're all going to have to get up and make our own living, aren't we? Regardless of what happens.
Yeah, I mean, James, can I just explain to you that what many of us thought was it had taken such an enormous heave to get us as far as we'd got. Yeah. The idea, if we just left in name only, it'd be okay because we could move the whole thing on again. I just think that we would have faced such a wall of opposition from our political class, it might have taken another 10 or 20 years to move things on. And that's why I think so many Eurosceptics, having thought and agonised with themselves, went against the deal. Do you, James, do you admire Mrs May?
Actually, I do, because she threw her hat in the ring. She won the election. she's been getting on with it. And actually, I think it gets to the point where it just boils down to a lack of respect, really, for her role and for her position, and actually for the amount of effort that she's put in when people, are so easy to insult her and insult what she's doing. And then for Jeremy Corbyn, I mean, I don't know about anyone else who's listening who they sort of hang around with, but anybody I know that thinks that Corbyn hasn't learned anything from May calling the last election and being too arrogant, and he's being far too arrogant. And honestly, I believe that he would lose, and I also believe that if there were a second referendum, that it would be vote leave, but even stronger vote leave.
So do I. James, great call. Thank you. And, I get James's position. There are people like James who say, look, at least the deal gets us over the line. I just felt, personally, it wasn't actually worth it. Catherine says on Facebook, people will find it very hard trusting any political party. May is sly in introducing a deal when we didn't vote for. Corbyn is a Remainer. Well, Catherine, you're confusing things, but we're all confused because, May's a Remainer who basically says she's backing Brexit. Corbyn's been a leaver all his life, backing a party that now wants to keep us somehow inside the single market and the customs union. You couldn't really invent much of this. Ryan is a new caller from Wokingham. Good evening, Ryan.
Good evening. Hello. You mentioned obviously a vote of confidence in the Prime Minister. Would you back that? I think if you ask the question, would you have a vote of confidence against any MP at a local level, whether you think you're confident they've represented you to get this over the line? I think if you put it up against every politician, I think they'd all be in trouble.
Is there, Ryan, a sort of collective lack of confidence in the entire political class?
I think so. I mean, this leads on to the point that I sort of called in, really, was like, I think the politicians, obviously, they've got their motives, whether they lean one way or the other towards leave or remain. But I think they're the wrong people to be doing this. They're the wrong people to be doing the negotiations. I think private businesses, businessmen, women from across the UK and over the Channel will have a vested interest in sort of making something happen. I think you should have a referendum on this, but not as in we should be leaving. It should be like a no deal leave or a negotiated deal that has been put together by businessmen from BMW, from Germany.
Ryan, this one is Ryan. I tell you, this one's going to run and run. It's going to run and run. Thank you, Michael Gove. Still hasn't finished. He's just sat down. And some cynics are saying that in defending Mrs. May in this confidence vote, he's given a pretty good audition for the job himself, ironically. Result to come in a few minutes. I have little doubt that Mrs. May will survive that one. Another great day of drama in Westminster. You've been listening to the Nigel Farage Show. I'm back tomorrow at 6. At 10 to